I am nice.
Why seem nice?
This is the beautiful Taylor Russell.
I'm Taylor Russell.
I'm Taylor Russell.
A Canadian actress that seemed to come out of nowhere ever since her role as Marin in Bones and All. At least that's where I first found out about her. As always, Hollywood has a way to keep hidden gem actresses hidden from the public until they themselves find a way to separate themselves from the Nepo baby apocalypse currently happening. So let's start from the very beginning and we'll work our way up to the fashion icon, Loewe brand ambassador, and in my opinion, one of the most prized actresses of our generation. She was born in 1994 in Canada and she moved a lot around as a kid.
I think feeling uncomfortable is okay, and not putting so much pressure on yourself to fit in, and knowing that, you know, there is somewhere that you will feel a part of the conversation.
Constantly in new environments, new schools, new people. She talked about feeling like she was always on the outside of things, a little bit displaced, and I think that experience of being the observer wove everything into what she does now. Her acting background began by working multiple jobs to save enough money to drive to LA for auditions. She landed small parts here and there. A Disney movie, a sci-fi Netflix called Lost in Space, where she played Judy Robinson, the eldest daughter. For years, most people had no idea who she was. I want to spend some time in her acting before we get into the fashion, because I genuinely think you cannot understand one without the other. The roles that made Taylor Russell were not flashy. They were not the kind of parts where you show up and perform. Her breakout role as Emily in Waves, Marin in Bones and All. These are the characters who carry enormous weight internally, grief, fear, confusion and loneliness, but express almost none of it on the surface. They're soft on the outside and absolutely devastating on the inside, and Taylor renders that gap with this terrifying precision. In Waves, which she filmed in 2018, she plays the youngest sister of all the family, navigating an unthinkable tragedy. She barely speaks for the first half of the film, and the second half belongs entirely to her. She carries it so gently that the critics called it the most spectacular performance in the entire film, which I completely agree with. It was like the calm after the storm. One writer noted that you could even sense the undercurrent of the sadness in her, even as she smiled, even as she tried to hold everything together. She seemed shy, but she was self-assured. She was soft and not very fragile. And then Bones and All came along in 2022, Luca Guadagnino films that most of the world discovered her through. On the surface, the concept sounds like it should be yet the opposite of the two. Two cannibals falling in love with the American road. And yet, Taylor brings this quality to Marin that is almost unbearably tender. She conveys the innocence and determination through her eyes, through small gestures, and she doesn't really announce what she's feeling. She lets you feel it with her. This is a whole thing as an actress. It's subtle and natural, but it's also grounded. You feel it deeply, and it's quietly feminine in a way that has nothing to do with the decorative and demure. It's all about depth, and that's really what acting is. It's about interiority and that sensibility, that commitment to expressing something real rather than something loud. That bleeds directly into how she exists in the world. Now let's talk about the fashion, because this is where it gets really interesting. When Taylor first started appearing on red carpets, her style was something understated to the point that it was almost invisible, in the best way. Monochromatic looks, neutral palettes, and in clean silhouettes. A lot of Chanel, nothing that screamed for attention. I think a lot of people read that early era as before she found her style, like she was just wearing nice things until she figured it out. But I actually think that the restraint was the whole foundation. It was her establishing quietly, without a single press release, that she understood quality over access. She wasn't going to use the red carpet to perform extravagance for the sake of it. She was patient and building it. Think of it like your first act on a film. You need to know where someone starts before you understand where they go. Her Venice Film Festival dress broke the internet in the quietest way. Suddenly everyone was asking, who is that? People who never really heard of Taylor Russell were adding her to their Pinterest boards and Tumblr pages. And people who had heard of her were looking at her completely differently. This was also when she began working with the stylist Ryan Hastings, who had previously built the visual identities of actresses like Carey Mulligan, Mia Goth, and Rooney Mara. And the two of them started delivering look after look after look during the press run. Clean, feminine, elegant, and considered. Nothing over the top and try hard. Her style was very Audrey Hepburn. It was very refined and slightly dark, but completely glamorous. Shortly after, Jonathan Anderson, the creator and director of Loewe, chose her to open the brand's Spring-Summer 2023 show. They'd met through Luca Guadagnino, who was a close friend of Anderson's, and she became a Loewe Global Ambassador, one of Anderson's official muses. And that word, muse, is so important when we're talking about soft femininity, because a muse isn't a mannequin. Ultimately, a muse inspires, and a muse brings something to creative collaboration that the designer couldn't have accessed on their own. Taylor brought that something. So by now, I think we can start to define what we're actually talking about when we say Taylor Russell has perfected soft femininity, because it's not what people usually mean when they use that phrase. It's not pastel colours and bows, and it's not sweetness as a personality strategy. It's not being quiet because you have nothing to say. It's restraint as a form of power. It's choosing not to perform loudness in a world that rewards it. And it's incredibly rich interior life that trusts what you're patient. People will lean in to find it rather than you having to shove it in your face. Her off-duty style reflects this too. When she's not on the red carpet, she's doing tailored coats, long trench coats and vintage denim, and very minimalist accessories. She might pair a structured blazer with old G's and bold sneakers. High fashion next to the casual. She also spoke about fashion as storytelling. The piece chooses itself, whether it's an archival Chanel gown that was originally modeled for Claudia Schiffer in 1993, or a sculptural Alexander McQueen with sharp angles and intricate establishments. They all have this history in them. She blends these vintage with contemporary in a way that looks something nostalgic and also very new. But there's something else that was worth noting when Taylor Russell arrived. We are living in an era of radical oversharing, Instagram stories at 6 a.m. and TikTok lives when celebrities just sit there being famous. Every celebrity relationship played out in real time, online, and simultaneously we are watching people get absolutely exhausted by all of it. Into this moment steps Taylor Russell, who is by every account private, very private. She doesn't overshare and she doesn't perform accessibility. She gives you just enough to be captivated and then closes the door. And actually, I think does this very well is Mikey Madison. Even during the period of time when she was dating Harry Styles, one of the most photographed men on earth, she managed to stay remarkably herself, unbothered, and the story somehow didn't consume her. That privacy isn't calculated in an obvious way. It reads as completely genuine. She just seems like a person who knows who she is and doesn't need external validation to confirm it. And in 2024 and beyond, this is magnetic. It's very old Hollywood, like her fashion sense in the best sense. The sense of mystery that made you want to go to the cinema just to see someone's face again. I think what Taylor Russell teaches us, without even saying it outright, is that softness is not the absence of strength. It's a different form of strength. It's a discipline of a ballet teacher and a ballet dancer. The patience of someone who spent years quietly building before anybody else was watching. The emotional courage it takes to completely transform on screen and completely private off it. The creative confidence to wear an archival yellow gown and still make it feel like you. Soft femininity in her hands is not aesthetic. It's not a mood board and it's not a philosophy about how you move through the world. With intention, with depth, with an absolute refusal to be louder than you need to be. She whispered and everybody leaned in. And honestly, I think she's only getting started.